Welcome to AskFOI, where we answer the most common questions we receive here at the Friends of Israel about prophecy, Israel, and the Bible. With me today is Les Crawford, joining us from Australia. Welcome, Les.
Thank you, Steve.
Les, eschatology, the end times, there's no shortage of opinions on these subjects. And one prophetic passage in particular that comes up a lot in our questions is Ezekiel 38 and 39. There's a incredible battle. And then there are these curious names, Gog and Magog. You wrote about this for us, and it brought a lot of clarity to a lot of people. Can you tell us what is the Battle of Gog and Magog?
Well, as you say, Steve, there's a lot of different opinions. Some try to see it as a battle that's already taken place historically. Others see it yet to come, but at various times in God's prophetic calendar. So I think one of the easiest tasks, not easiest task, but one of the important tasks is to identify who is actually involved in the battle. You know, we talk about Gog and Magog, and we talk about a whole list of other names in that Ezekiel passage, and trying to find out, well, where are they and who are they? There's a pretty good consensus on most of those things, for Gog being a leader, a bit like a pharaoh or a king, Magog being more of a region, and people tend to identify them with the Scythians, tend to look at them as being associated with the nation of Russia in the modern era. And it's interesting when you look at each of the other nations that are mentioned, or people groups that are mentioned, they all tend to have an Islamic identity today. So there's almost like this coalition of nations that gather as a group against the nation of Israel. Steve, it just appears that there's a commonality between these nations in terms of their religious background, and obviously in terms of their aim and objective being to attack the nation of Israel. And that Islamic identity seems to be something that brings them commonly together, even though they're coming from different parts. From the north, coming from the east, Persia's mentioned, which is modern Iran, coming across. And the question then becomes, on what basis do they want to take Israel, and when is this going to occur? And I think in the text, the key identifying time frame is not just the latter days and after many days, which are normally prophetic markers and indicate the future, but Israel is described as being at rest, feeling secure, having in the ancient descriptions unwalled villages and no protection necessary. So that's hardly the nation of Israel today. I mean, right now they're in the middle of a war with multiple fronts, and it's unlikely that this is going to happen very soon or easily unless something dramatic happens. And that's why I see the timing of this particular battle as being when the Antichrist has actually created a peace covenant described in Daniel chapter 9 in the 70-week prophecy, so that Israel feels secure, feels like it's got overall guardianship from a very powerful leader on the global stage. So in that sense, it must be future. It must also be related to the tribulation period. And the first half is the only time that Israel is at peace, because that's a 3.5-year period where Antichrist has kept that covenant, but Daniel tells us that he'll break that covenant in the midpoint. And maybe the catalyst for breaking that is actually the invasion of this coalition of nations. I might wonder, well, why would they want to attack Israel? Well, there's a natural hatred, of course, between Islam and Judaism. There's also a very attractive nation with many resources, material resources, economic resources, intellectual resources. So they are someone that's worth taking control over, someone worth dominating. So I see the battle as completed sometime in the first half of the tribulation, probably towards the midpoint. That would actually be a catalyst to remove Russia off of the so-called national grid, would give Antichrist even greater opportunity to enhance his power and his domination. It also provides him with a reason to say, oh, well, I'm not going to keep this covenant anymore because we've just had a violation of it, so I'm just going to take it off the map altogether, and now Israel will become the target for the Antichrist. So sometime in that first half of the tribulation period, I think, fits well with the data that we have from Ezekiel 38 and 39.
The now powerful Western nations, where are they in this battle? Is there any indication of where they might fall into this battle?
Well, the only powerful nation that's identified that we could say from our modern experience is the nation of Russia. Iran is obviously a varied nation. I mean, it has a great agenda to take over the Middle East and even world domination if they could. I mean, they talk about Israel being the little Satan and America being the big Satan. Uh, but the other nations mentioned, which probably relate to Libya and Sudan, they're minor players. But if you combine them all together, and we don't know how they will develop in the next 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, or 1 year, or even a month. Who knows? The Middle East changes overnight. But we don't see anything really of Europe. We don't see anything of the US. China's not really mentioned there. They will probably feature in other passages. I mean, there is an invading army that will come from the east, but I see that not at this battle, not the battle of Gog and Magog. So the European nations will be a part of the whole global mix, but it doesn't seem like they're interfering. And perhaps, I mean, if we see the situation with Ukraine today and Russia's invasion of Ukraine and NATO's support of Ukraine, but they're not getting directly involved. They're not putting troops on the ground. They're not actually engaging directly with Russia. So maybe people are passive and just let it happen. But I mean, the big player in this whole thing is God himself, because this battle comes to a dramatic and cataclysmic end. And it's not because Israel is strong, it's because God intervenes and protects them, because he has a plan and purpose yet to be fulfilled as the tribulation unfolds and then as the millennial kingdom is established with Jesus. So we're talking about God's sovereignty over this battle. And we mustn't forget his role, which is clearly defined as something that will show who he is, even if the world can't fully comprehend it.
Well, this has been great. As we close, I'd like to remind our viewers about the article that Les wrote. It's actually the most popular article on our website, and you'll be able to find that in the description of this video. Thank you, Les.